It's time now for the KC Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's KC Ingram.
Tired of lines at the boat launch, sun damage, or not using your boat because of the hassle? Call Meridian Marine and Yacht Club because we do all the work so you can enjoy your boating lifestyle. We store your boat inside, launch it with a wash with just 30 minutes notice, and rinse it down before putting it back.
It's time to call in with your questions.
Need new electronics, service, detailing, bottom paint? No problem. Our experienced certified techs will make sure your boat is in tip-top shape and ready to head to the sandbar fishing or the Bahamas. We've got all kind of audio issues going on at the beginning of the show, but we are here now.
We figured it out.
Dave Hafner, hello. We have Representative Marylynn Magar joining us by phone in Tallahassee. How are you doing this evening, Marylynn Magar?
Good evening from the state's capital.
Wonderful. We are so glad you took some time out of your schedule. I know you're super busy up there. We're excited to hear what all you're working on. And it's a little melancholy because this is your last session in the House. So we're a little sad about that, but anxious to hear what you have on tap. So
Well, it is a little bittersweet. You know, it's been a wonderful experience for 8 years, and I've tried to represent the interests of Martin County along the way. And we've been able to get a lot of great things done. As you know, I sit mostly on healthcare committees. This year, I am the chair of healthcare appropriations. Healthcare is about 48% of our budget, 48%, and a third of that is Medicaid. So before we get around to talking about the important issues and the most talked about issues like water and teacher pay raises, Medicaid takes 1/3 of our budget before we can fund anything else.
Wow.
It is sobering.
And, a third of the budget, you have to think about that for statewide. And then the other 2/3 of the budget is for everything else. And as you said, our water issues and teachers' pay, there's so many other issues out there that demand funds. So how do you balance that?
You know, you're right, because some of those others, the amounts seem like a drop in the bucket. And with the approximately $90 billion budget, and like I said, a third of it going directly to Medicaid, we have to be very careful with the other dollars that we spend on your behalf, on taxpayers' behalf. So we'll be talking about the priorities like teacher pay raises. The governor has proposed giving pay raises to new teachers to invite them into the field. And, of course, water. Water is always going to be important in Martin County.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be something we'll be talking about, how to fund, how to make sure that we are appropriating properly, whether it's to buy storage land, whether we're talking about, excuse me, I'm having a little issue up here in Tallahassee. We have so many different trees and everything else, but
I was gonna say, if you were here, I'd give you a bottle of water for sure.
I'm reaching for one now.
While you're reaching that, we had a question come in over the Facebook Live, and it's from Nurses Take Florida. They said, many nurses have reached out to our organization with their story about unsafe nurse-patient ratios in the hospital and nursing home. They are afraid to speak up due to retaliation by their employers. Why is it so difficult for Florida to protect patients and nurses?
You know, nursing homes obviously fall under my purview as healthcare appropriations and the funding of them. And I work quite closely with ACA, who licenses and manages the nursing homes. As a matter of fact, I was speaking to nursing home operators just this morning because it is very difficult to get healthcare workers and to have the proper pay and alignment. I'm also very interested in making sure that we have the correct number of hours for direct care from nurses and CNAs to direct care with the patients and residents of nursing homes. It's very difficult to get those workers, healthcare workers, in there. And I think in many areas of healthcare, kind of those entry level, those frontline healthcare, the people that are caring for us and for our family members, the pay has traditionally been very low and very entry level. And so we're working on ways to, and talking about things to get that number up. And part of it would be to make sure that those people are trained well and trained to be able to do other things that would give them value, that would enable people to nursing homes or hospitals or whatever we're talking about, the healthcare facility, would drive up their wages. So really the key is for education and improving their skills as healthcare workers. And it is something that is at the very top of my list that I'm working on. So I'd love to have that person reach out and give me their thoughts, and if they're a nurse, what they're going through and what they see.
Absolutely. So Nurses Take Florida, definitely reach out with a note. I know you've had a couple more comments here, so Representative Magar would definitely like to hear from you. Let's talk a little bit, too, about the water. Representative Overdorf was on the show 2 weeks ago and mentioned House Bill 153, which is Indian River Lagoon sponsored state matching grant program. So do you know of any other bills we should be watching, or are you involved with that bill as well?
You know, I'm not on the Appropriations Committee. However, I do support any items, any bills that will help our Indian River Lagoon, and to make sure that we are cleaning the water, that we're stopping the discharges. I think we're in a unique situation with this governor, with this new governor. He's taking a new look, a fresh look. I understand, I've not read the article yet, but I understand he appointed the last member to the South Florida Water Management Board, which is where we take a lot of direction for what we're going to be doing with water in our area. And I think now that that board is complete, we will see some other bills coming out for funding, like I said, for storage, for deep water wells, for ASR wells. Whatever the case may be, we have got to stop the discharges once and for all.
Oh, here to that. As Speaker Pro Tempore, do you have other initiatives? I know you said you're sitting on the nursing and health committee, which that's not the exact title of it, but
Healthcare appropriations.
Healthcare appropriations. Thank you. Do you have any other initiatives that you're focusing on, or what other committees are you sitting on?
Most everything I do is within the healthcare arena. And because it's appropriations, I'm carefully looking at the budgets of all of our health agencies, Department of Health, Healthcare Administration, Department of Elder Affairs, Children and Families, and looking at their budgets closely to make sure that we are not wasting money on maybe old programs, maybe software that we contract for data, and we're not even using the data. So to make sure that we are still in need of programs that we are spending on, because there are a lot of other issues, and there are a lot of other new and innovative programs that might help average Floridians in need a lot more. Also, our agency for persons with disabilities under the healthcare silo is about $140 million in the hole that we have got to fill. And these are people that need services, need help from the state, and I think that there's not many, if any, among us that don't want to be able to help and care for our disabled residents. I mean, these are people through no fault of their own are confined to sometimes wheelchairs or hospital beds. And for us to give them the proper care and fulfillment of life is most important.
Couple more questions for you. One just came in from Mayor Bruner. She said, do you have a name of who was the last person appointed on the South Florida Water Management District Board?
I do not. I have not read. I saw the article flash up, and I have been in meetings nonstop since 8 o'clock this morning, I saw that there was an announcement, and I do not know the name.
Dave Hafner just chimed in and said Ben Butler.
Ben Butler.
So I have another comment. Sharon Gravel, she's a RN in Florida and registered conservative. We nurses need your support for SB 204, delivering of nursing services. People are falling victim to hospital-acquired infections and even death due to missed nursing care as staffing is extremely strained. Hospitals do not care. We have been speaking up. Fear of retaliation is real. How can you help nurses get this bill to the floor and beat the hospital lobbyist? We don't have their big money.
Well, we will certainly pull that bill up to make sure that we understand it. I'm not exactly familiar with it, but I know I will be and will be reading it. So I've always been a big proponent of nurses because they are, in many ways, our frontline caregivers, and we've always wanted to make sure that they're able to practice to the full scope, to make sure that the training that they have, that they're able to use properly and appropriately, that in areas, rural areas that need more healthcare workers, that an ARNP, a nurse, can do some of the things that doctors have traditionally done. And many nurses do them already. It's just they have to pay a doctor to be under that supervisor. And sometimes those doctors are not even in the same field and not even in the same city, county, town. So we have to, make sure that we're giving our nurses everything, that we're standing behind them and letting them practice and get out there. We have counties in this state, that don't have certain specialists, whether it's pediatricians or cardiologists. So we have to make do with the healthcare workers that we have and make sure they're properly educated and they're out there treating people so that people are not getting sicker and worse and having to access emergency care in times when a simple knowledge and primary care would do.
Yes, it's a little shocking to hear. I didn't realize that not all areas have the right doctors to be able to take care of patients. I mean, in a way, it sounds like something that our veterans go through, and they're looking for the right doctor, and they have to go to a veterans facility that's not very close to them. So this is
people often forget that Florida is a very diverse state, not only in population, but in our geography. We've got our great big cities like Miami and Tampa. We've got Orlando with Mickey Mouse, but don't forget, much of Florida is rural, and it is much harder to access health care in those areas. And we want to make sure that people are being treated and being cared for and living the most healthy life they can live. And the best way to do that is to make sure that all healthcare workers are able to practice to their full scope of what they've been trained to do.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate in that area. And let me ask you about another health issue, and that is, of course, the hepatitis outbreak. I know that you were involved with that as well, and Representative Overdorf, and encouraging people to get vaccinations. Do you have any updates on where the hepatitis outbreak stands?
Well, the hepatitis outbreak is not just in Martin County, but it really is statewide. And what has bothered me within Martin County is it is not within the traditional population that usually gets Hep A. So everyone needs to be careful. Everyone needs to be washing their hands. And if you can access the shot with the Department of Health or your local private provider, CVS, Walgreens, whatever the case may be, I think it's very important right now within the state. And I think we're also needing to take steps to make sure that as we have an outbreak of whatever it is, Hep A, Zika, other unknown diseases at this point, that we are able to communicate to the population to get out there with our healthcare workers, and whether it's vaccinate or tell people how to prevent or treat these diseases. I mean, this is a real problem, and I think we have to have a statewide, a countywide plan on what to do, whether it's Hep A or something new. So the update is continue to be vigilant, wash your hands, get vaccinated when you can. And for those of us that when we first heard about this outbreak in late spring, early summer, that got your first dose of the vaccination, you do need that second booster in about 6 months. So sometime around the end of the year, first of the year, those of us that got the initial vaccination should be getting that booster to make sure that we are protected, because we have not been able to pinpoint exactly how it's been transmitted. It has not been pinpointed to a certain restaurant or area. Like I said, it is not just Martin County. So as we're traveling and as the holidays are coming up, get out there and make sure you get vaccinated and wash your hands, especially with flu season coming up as well.
Right. And I did read the hepatitis A was on a increase nationwide. So you're absolutely right. Leaving Martin County, you could contract it anywhere. So certainly something to be vigilant about. How about education? Do you have anything on radar with education bills?
Well, I can tell you one thing that isn't really education related, but is kind of the talk of the town right now. And that is, kind of taking a dive into what's going on with the NCAA and people that want to allow college players to be paid for endorsements or jobs or advertisements that they may have with their image. So the funny thing is, every time I talk to people, everyone says, well, I'm kind of conflicted because everyone loves their college sports and doesn't want to see that change. You know, it's all about the team in college sports, whereas some of the pro sports, there's so much spotlight on the individual and they change teams so often that people hate to see it now coming into college sports. But, in many ways, the NCAA have set this up in that there's so much money in college sports.
Right.
But I fear in paying some of the top players that, what happens to the rest of the team? What happens to women's sports that might not find the advertisement dollars that some of the top line football or basketball players have? But, we don't seem to have these problems on the girls softball team or lacrosse teams. It's all about the big football and basketball teams. So I know it's something that we'll be talking about. The governor has expressed some support for this, and we're going to have to talk about it. Although I wish it weren't something government were talking about, because I think once we start talking about it, we're going to be tweaking, and if we pass some kind of bill, we're going to be tweaking that and passing bills for many years to come based on college sports. I wish it was kind of like baseball, where there was a minor league or you go to college to play.
Right.
But there isn't in the basketball and the football arenas at this point. So it'll be something that is kind of not been on my radar, but certainly is right now. We don't want states like California, Texas, Alabama, Georgia to pass bills, and then the top players are not going to our schools or leaving our state and playing in those other states because they're able to sell a T-shirt or something.
Right. Yeah, this competition of the dollar in the end.
Right.
So, Representative Magar, let's talk a little bit just about you and what you're doing right now. So session starts in January, but here you're calling us from Tallahassee. Representative Overdorf called us from Tallahassee a couple weeks ago. We got about 4 minutes here, and just you know the drill up there. Can you just tell us what's going on? Why are you there early? How long do you have to be there before session? What's going on up there exactly?
So the past, I believe it's 6 years, we've broken this up into an early session and a regular session. So after we're elected in an even year, we do the regular session, which committees start in November, December, January, February, we start session in March, and April finish up first week of May. And it had been that way where they were always meeting in March and April for a number of years. And then we went to this early meeting session where committees start in September and we start our session in January. I personally like this quite a bit. And many people say, oh, look, so people can get out and go campaign early. But for me, it's a whole different level. Number one, I have maintained my business. I'm a small business owner in Tequesta, and I've maintained working at my business while serving in office. And getting out in March allows me to get back to my taxes, and I have the full rest of the year to tend to my business. So as a business owner, I like that. For policy, I believe that having the regular session and then early session makes it one big session. And really this past summer was like intermission. So things that didn't get done or maybe need some tweaks in the first regular session, we have just a few short months till the end session that we're already starting to meet, and you're able to reintroduce that idea and perhaps perfect a bill that may have not passed last session. So I think in those ways, it's a positive. Additionally, getting out in March allows the budgets, which will start, and funding and laws that start in July, to have plenty of time for the agency to get ready for it.
I have to ask you this.
Those are the positives.
I have to ask you this before we go off air, and that is, what's next for you? You're terming out this session, so what's next for Representative Magar?
Enjoying Martin County's good nature.
There you go. I like that.
I'll be golfing and enjoying Martin County, and of course helping our community wherever I can. Who knows what comes next?
I don't know if we're going to have time for this question, but I'll try and get it in. The Fresh from Florida Agricultural Promotion Program derives an estimated $20 return for each $1 spent. With agriculturists returning an average 10% in taxes per year, it means the state receives approximately $2.2 per dollar spent. This helps keep agriculture the second highest economic driver in the state. Do you see a path to increase the Department of Ag's Fresh from Florida budget this coming session?
I will tell you that Florida agriculture's best advertisement is our farmers and those of us that can go out and purchase Florida agriculture and make sure that we are serving it up for dinner every night.
Do so. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking this time here this evening. We look forward to touching base with you again during session, Representative Magar.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, have fun up in Tallahassee if you can.
Thank you. We'll see you at home.
You got it. Thanks so much. I want to remind everybody you can sign up for the weekly email letter that lets you know who the special guest is at the KCIngramShow.com.